it really matters that you believe in the problem that you're solving. I think some counterparts of mine would say it matters more that you like winning, but I would disagree. Like, I think you can be someone that's ambitious but not be able to bring that ambition unless you actually care in what you're working in. And I think specifically with female entrepreneurs, like, all of them have started with a reason.
Hello and welcome to today's episode of ventoré Unscripted. I'm your host Flora and head of marketing at ventoré, and I'm really excited today to be joined by our global partnership lead Mona and Bella, who is the head of the Aurora Tech Award, a global initiative that backs female founders in emerging markets. So Bella, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm good. We're at the end of kind of one of our big seasonal pushes, which is when we get applications for the award, which closed yesterday. So today's a good day. Yeah.
How exciting.
And for those of the listeners who don't know what the Aurora Tech Award is, tell us all about it. Explain it to us.
Yeah, so Aurora exists for a really simple reason, which is that, as everyone knows, less than 3% of venture funding goes to women, and that number isn't any better in emerging markets. But at the same time, you've got this incredible momentum of female business owners coming through and building really category defining companies in their local regions. And so what we saw with Aurora is there's an immense amount of talent and quality, but a huge lack of capital and opportunity. And so Aurora exists to basically back the boldest female founders in emerging markets. And we use the word bold quite intentionally. It's those that, rather than sitting and complaining that this was not built for me or this is too hard, they just went and did it. So Aurora really exists in a core sense to serve them. And then how we figured out how to do that is maybe something I can touch on, but that's kind of why we exist.
Does Aurora have a meaning for you, the naming?
So Aurora is technically to do with the Northern Lights in Russia. I think it's about new beginnings and new openings and kind of miracles in a way, because the Northern Lights are. And that I think ties into our brand of we back the people that maybe the market overlooks, but they're not a risk, they're an opportunity.
Oh, I love this framing. We back the people that the market maybe overlooks.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
And how did your past career path, how did that lead you to this moment and doing what you're doing now?
Super randomly. I have zero career progression. My career started as I was trained as a lawyer, and then I realized I'd probably get fired if I would stay in law because I have no attention to detail. And then I fell into a legal tech startup because I thought, legal and tech, great. I didn't know what a startup was at the time. I joined when I was 20 in a more marketing capacity. I had no marketing knowledge. And that company grew from 20 or so people to 100 plus in my first year and a half. So I wouldn't say I contributed to that growth. I'm not somebody that was I joined and then no. I survived that growth, I think. But I learned a lot. I learned very specific things, but I don't think I learned at a strategic level. But I got quite a lot of visibility through it because the founder would just send me to all these events to be in the startup ecosystem, and by virtue I ended up kind of creating a personal brand and kind of having a reputation. But I didn't know that, and then I became head of marketing for a fund in the UK. Again, I was 21. I got really, really lucky. I think I must just be quite good at selling myself.
I love that.
I had zero, I remember when I got the job offer, I was this is a joke. As in this is a joke. The fact that I get this job is a joke. But I also think I'm the best person they'd ever had in that role, and I worked really, really hard. And that's when I learned the more strategic side of things, and also having a team, firing a team, all these things. And then I was well, I've worked. I feel I'm able to work. I still don't know what my skills are, but I need to do something that means something. I think I was a bit tired of classic venture capital, and there's not really a meaning to what we were doing. And I basically started going to recruiters being I want a job with people, purpose and profit. So I didn't want to work for a charity. And obviously recruiters were what are you talking about? Literally, what are you talking about? And then, yeah, 6 months later, one of the recruiters that actually originally had like kind of shut me down completely ended up messaging and being like, hey, we have this job. They need someone to build out an award for female entrepreneurs. Are you open to it? And I was like, this is a scam. No, I saw the LinkedIn message and I was like, this is somebody's like duping me.
This time it's not a joke. This time it's a scam.
Yeah. It's like not even.
I love it.
And then, yeah, like a year ago, I joined Aurora. And weirdly, to actually answer your question, Flora, I think the reason I'm good at building Aurora, and I do think it's the first job I'm actually naturally very good at, is because I had such a wide remit of, I had been in the investment landscape, I had been on the startup side, I understand, like, I've met so many entrepreneurs, like, I do understand the foundationals, and then I also understand a social first strategy, and like, similar to you guys at ventoré, like, I think the world of venture capital and entrepreneurship and like being an investor should meet a social first brand. So it kind of all came together, but there was no plan behind it, which I think is hard because like you don't know it's going to work until it works. You get what I mean? So yeah,
I think especially like in the industry we are in or you are in, it's not common to be social first.
No.
And especially like female tech, like I love it that you pinpointed out the social first. And one thing came up to my mind when you said like why you are now in the role you are. Everybody can get knowledge, but I heard this quote saying like experience is the real teacher, and I agree 100%.
I mean, I would love to have had better teachers. Like, I would love to have had a manager.
I'm the same. I'm just a living lie.
Yeah.
Everything I've done is just me being like, I can do that.
Exactly.
And then like Googling it.
Yeah.
But I think that's why we're sitting here, and that's one
Yeah.
thing maybe women listening to the podcast can take as an advice if they want to already, because most of the women, they see like a job description and they would like, I think it's proven even, they would never apply only if like one thing is not ticking the box, and a man is like, oh, I'm ticking only one thing, let's go for it.
Yeah.
But so how do you, so, you know, the people that get the awards, the founders, how do you choose them? How does the kind of selection process work?
Yeah, so that's the process we, literally are just kind of running into now. And it's evolved a lot, especially when I joined, because that is a really good question. It's like, how do you make a fair decision of like, what is a good entrepreneur? I don't think it's a perfect science. So the way that we do it is we have like a mass open call. So a lot of like inbound applications. So we do that through email marketing, our social media. Then we have partner referrals. So that it's like we put it out to the market. We say, look, like there's 85 grand on the table plus these other things, like, you know, apply. But this year we also did outbound. So we scouted what entrepreneurs we thought would be good. And we said to them, can you please apply? And some of them, you know, really late stage, like incredible track record. And actually they did apply, which is incredible. So now we have, as of yesterday, 3,400 applications to sift through. The first instance of that is actually like automated based on the scoring. So when the founders fill in elements like revenue, user growth, team experience, like are they a multiple time founder, the problem that they're solving, total addressable market, like we have a system that scores them based on, it's not that one thing is better than the other, but it gives us a comprehensive score. And then essentially how we get to the next stage of companies is we're really looking at like, okay, these 400 have scored like much higher than the others, so that helps us sift through like at least some, because you can't manually go through 3,400 applications. And then of the ones that we're like, to check that the scoring hasn't gone wrong, we do go through all the decks and see if like they make sense. Then the second stage is like not down to us. We have like a network of venture capital partners across the world that we have like onboarded. In exchange, like they see the deal flow, and then they come on to do the scoring. So that will begin where we like allocate, okay, you have to review like 9 companies, you invest in LATAM, this would make sense, and then they score, and we have this platform that we've built for that, so that it's all like very easy, because last year it was all very manual. It was literally like individual emails, sending them like a form, and it's just, I mean, it's so messy, and you're trying to allocate the companies, and God, it was a nightmare. That actually my team did, I didn't do, because I would probably get it wrong. And then we do like live pitches, so that would create the top 100 female founders. Then you do the live pitches to ascertain like who are the top 30, and then from that we get the 10 finalists, and the 10 finalists pitch live at an event in front of judges, and then we have 3 winners. So it's very not me looking and being like, this is what a good founder is, because that's not fair. So yeah.
But can I ask you the question, like, from all of your experience, what do you think is a good founder? Or like maybe some things they have in common when you say like, that's a good founder for me.
Yeah, I think, and this really goes against, I think, a lot of what maybe some peers say, but for me, it really matters that you believe in the problem that you're solving. I think some counterparts of mine would say it matters more that you like winning, but I would disagree. Like, I think you can be someone that's ambitious but not be able to bring that ambition unless you actually care in what you're working in. And I think specifically with female entrepreneurs, like, all of them have started with a reason. That doesn't mean that it's an emotional business. It just means that there's real drive and understanding behind the people that they're solving for. And with those female founders as well, we're seeing is that they are solving more regional, more niche problems. But for example, if a female founder in Colombia is solving for the fact that, like, female hairdressers cannot get access to credit lines, that's not a small, as in, that's a massive market. As in, even if you just got Colombia, that is hundreds of millions of dollars. So, but it's niche. And so, well, now I look at founders, there's two things I look at, which is like, you know, why, but also it's like, how much have you built with nothing? Because most female founders can't raise, right? So they don't have the luxury of like, oh, we'll just try. It's like, how much did you build with nothing? And I think that grit says a lot about your ability as a founder to create opportunity. We have one founder called Naza who was a finalist last year, and interestingly, she the year before had seen our winner Folake. We had a winner Folake from Nigeria, and she had seen her and been like, wow, like, and it would been on her vision board, I want to be a winner of the Aurora Tech Award. And I only found this out when Folake and Gunaza were on a podcast together, where Gunaza looks at Folake and was like, you're the reason that I applied, and then a year later ended up, like, that's crazy. And I didn't know that. Like, that was, we were like, hold on, so you, like, literally, this was a driving force for your business. But she created, she nearly died giving birth, and so she created a platform primarily in Eastern Europe, all about informing women and real education and connection with doctors around, like, pregnancy. And, you know, in the last 6 months, by the way, whilst having a whole family, another job, all these things, she's managed to go full-time on the business, like, paying herself. That's crazy. Like, for you to be able to do that means that you know?
Yeah.
So for me, those are the two things that I personally look at, but a lot of traditional venture capitalists would disagree. But I also think they're coming from a position where a lot of, like, very average people raise money and then never have to go through the thing of, like, I have to build this, like, of my own, like, sheer, like, determination, you know? And women have to go through that a lot more, I think, because they don't get any capital.
And they can't come up with the most amazing businesses and ideas because they've been through all of these things.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, me too. So in your role, you're designing systems for others to succeed. How do you then design your own autonomy whilst you're kind of leading this whole thing?
I think it's a work in progress. Like, I think my weeks, I don't have like, Flora knows this. I would be lying if I said, yeah, I go into every week and I'm like, Mondays are for this, Tuesdays are for this. I would love for that to be my week. But I think with Aurora, like, you know, we're still figuring out who we are, right? You know, it's okay, sure, we're an award for female entrepreneurs, great. But, like, what does that actually mean? And is it moving the needle? Because, you know, if you just have a black smoke moment where, oh, like, we do all this and we do some press releases and that's it, like, that's not helpful. Like, really, for me, success would be speaking to some of our founders, like Folake, like Naza, like the ones that are applying this year. And in a few years from now, them saying, literally, like, Aurora, you guys, your team, you made the difference. Like, you really made the difference. And actually doing that is quite hard, you know. Do we follow the traditional venture capitalist structure where it's like, okay, you have like a pool of mentors and then you don't really do anything and you just give them money and that's it? Like, you know, do we just do the marketing? Like, what do we do? And so actually a lot of our time this year has been going and literally asking founders that we respect, like, what are the things that made the biggest difference to you? And, like, you know, like, what if there's one thing I can do for you today, what would it be? And unfortunately or fortunately, a lot of that is access. I think a lot of business is done, as we know, behind closed doors, right? But fundamentally, like, the biggest thing you can help a founder with is supporting their P&L, and supporting their P&L means getting them clients or reducing their costs.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest blockers a lot of our founders face, whether they're from Latin America, whether from India, is that if I'm on LinkedIn, me as like a mixed white European person, and I message the head of manufacturing at BMW, 90% chance he's going to reply to me, right? And I can have that conversation, I can build that network. If one of my founders from India messages him, do you think he's going to reply? No, because he's going to think, oh, it's just some, they think it's spam.
Yeah.
And so our role is like, how do we like level that playing field? Like, how do we create our version of a boys club where like we're not just introducing you to mentors, because that's not helpful. We're introducing you to people that will actually move the business forward. So is that a really good lawyer? Is that a really good accountant? Is that someone that really understands your category and can connect you to the ecosystem that your product will finally make those deals?
So you're like a bridge, or you're a
we're
bridge
bridging
builder.
but that's super unscalable, right? But it's something that we have to do for now. I'm sure we'll hit a way of doing it in a more automated way, but right now it's kind of, And then the other side of it is like, how do you unlock capital? So actually Aurora has just announced or like closed its fund, so we will actually start deploying from next year. But more importantly than what we deploy, it's more like, if we invest, does that signal to the market that this is an opportunity? Because the biggest gap that we see is from that idea stage to the first institutional check being a seed round. Like, there's a massive gap. And so what we want to position ourselves as is like, okay, Aurora has invested, which means they have checked this. That will unlock downstream capital, because that's really, at the end of the day, like as a founder, you do need a level of cash if you want to not be so cash flow dependent. So that's like the question as to like what we do, but how I like structure that myself, I think I would be lying if I said I knew. Like, I think I'm trying to come into a place where I'm like, okay, I know if this gets done this week, we are moving the needle forward. Yeah. But right now, I think like I have an exceptional team, but myself, I would say I'm a little bit all over the place. But if I had to, it would be building the brand of the business, being the face of the business, opening doors with partners that like I'm good at sales, like making sure that we are constantly opening those doors, and bringing, players that could make us bigger in. Things I shouldn't be doing is like Excel spreadsheets, budgeting, operational tasks, anything that requires like sitting at my laptop for like 9 hours a day. But I'm not there yet, so I should probably take my own advice and like
I mean, it's just I just listening to you speak now, like I've known Bella for what, like a month. We met in Dubai. We met in the lift. It's a long story. But you are such an impressive person. Like, hearing you speak, hearing what you do, and you're so humble about it all. You're seriously impressive. And it's just like, as a friend, it's so exciting to really hear about what you're doing. Thanks. I just want to say that, because I feel like you need, someone needs to tell you this, because you're really, really impressive.
I think she knows a little bit.
Yeah,
no, I think it's really good to tell her.
I think the truth be told is there are a lot of days where I get to the end of the day and I'm like, what have you done? Like, actually, what have you done? I feel like you've gone between like 17 tabs and you've looked at a few things, but like,
and you've planned your whole week out.
Like, all I do is I sit with my planner and the plan never gets done. I'm actually working with a mindset coach to fix this. But so I will say that. But at the same time, and that's why I'm happy today, that's why I showered this morning, is because yesterday we closed a record-breaking number of applications. So even though I've definitely had a lot of days of what the hell have I done outside of procrastinate, even despite that, we're still here. And I also would say I don't think that would have happened had I not been here. Like, I have an exceptional team, but would they, like, am I a piece of that puzzle? Yes. So this is also the thing of like, I think sometimes we expect that we have to be like on and super like every single day, and every single day has to have that structure, and but I don't think we've achieved a little. And I would say I've had a lot of days where like I couldn't tell you what I did. So I think it's I would love to be a bit more productive, but I'm also not like that upset about it.
But we also have we all have such high standards for ourselves. Yeah. So even when we're not at our highest standard, even when we're a little bit further down, I still feel like we're achieving a lot.
Yeah, and it's also like, even maybe your 20% is somebody's 120%.
Yeah.
But I also agree, like, I truly believe it's about the quality you put in the work. And for example, same with like people, everything as well in your business, like in what you're doing in your industry is about people and the right. We talked about this at the event on Monday, like the right people, the right connections. And it's not about talking to 150 people. Yes, maybe when you do, according to numbers game, you will find the right person. But one person can give you the best contact, can move the needle so much more forward than like talking to people that are not a good fit.
Yeah, 100%. And I found what you were saying before about kind of those, I guess those points that people overlook, like you were talking about the LinkedIn point. In terms of kind of like Western investors, media, what are like the kind of the things they just don't even appreciate about building in emerging markets?
Okay, there's a few things. Let's start with like the good things. Number one is that there is an opportunity. I think especially in venture capital, and this doesn't go to everyone because there are some very smart investors that don't think like this. But when you come from the UK or Germany or the US, you think that like that is the market. Like anything interesting happening in the world of technology is happening in these markets. And like if you're not making it there, you're not making it. I think the sheer arrogance of that when like actually the population size is much smaller and you go to like the Middle East or you go to Latin America or you go to Asia, like of course there are problems to be solved there, and of course there is an opportunity, like e.g. like India. Like why does India have such a massively growing middle class? Because they decided rather than trying to sell outside, they're selling inside. So I think one thing is they overlook that there's a massive and also an undervalued opportunity because the market doesn't see this like hype. You get the same, let's say you have like Kareem here or you have DoorDash or whatever. You do that in Chile, it's going to be priced lower than the Deliveroo in the UK. But it's solving the same problem. It has the same unit economics. So like you're getting a discounted deal basically, right? Because of the perception of value. So there's that. Two, it's that just because something works in Europe doesn't mean it will work in the same way in these markets. Like cultural nuance is such an important thing. And I think people say, oh, well, this is the tech. But no, some of these countries are still very person to person. Some of them, don't use WhatsApp. They use Telegram. Some of them, in Africa, a lot of money like is done through the phone. Like people don't do like the telecom companies own a lot of how like money is moved around. There's all these like things that you need to understand. And I think to really understand those things, you need to be on the ground, or have very good partners on the ground, not just be like, oh, we're a global company, like we're going to scale here and we're going to do the exact same thing and we're not going to change anything and, franchise it. So there's that. But then the other side of it is, well, currency changes. You look at somewhere like Egypt. If you raise money in Egypt, your round is worth X one day and then the next day it's not. Corruption is a thing. Lack of infrastructure is a thing. If you're building a fintech company in Nigeria, you say that Monzo being built was hard or Revolut being built was hard. Yeah, it was hard, but you've got even less if you're doing that in parts of West Africa. And so it's like the reality of what these entrepreneurs need and the reality of the difficulty of succeeding is something that's overlooked. But if you get it right, there is a huge opportunity. And we still have a really big problem at the moment of when a company in one of these countries gets really big, like you're talking like post-Series A, locally they don't really have the maturity of the venture capital scene to give that next cash injection for them to IPO or whatever. So it's coming from Europe, from the US, but that link is still not there. And then the other thing is, where do these companies exit? None of them are listing on local stock exchanges, but then the US stock exchange or the London stock exchange are oversaturated. So there's a lot of like these kind of more practical things where you can see the lack of like maturity in these markets, but it's so interesting, and it's so interesting how differently business is done as well.
And what you said, like so much potential,
huge. Yeah, like if you get it right, I mean, I think you could just, it's like what tech used to be in Silicon Valley, like however many years ago. Yeah,
that's incredible.
I was just thinking about two friends of mine. Like one, he founded a company similar to PayPal, but for Pakistan, because in Pakistan as well, like there's not the opportunity that we have here. And another friend of mine is doing a Chinese learning app but like in a really like, let's say, gamification way. And she's a bridge between the States and China, and it's really, really like such a big market.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
In your experience, what's one myth that you've heard about female founders that you'd like to sort of change?
That if they're pregnant, they're less able to build a business. The most productive people I've ever met in my life are people with kids. Because like, okay, if I go into my day, right? My day today looked like I've got a whole morning. Then I'm meeting Flora for
Eggs on toast.
eggs on toast at 9. Then I've got like 2 hours to like maybe write a LinkedIn post and maybe look at the Slacks. And, you know, I've got some, you know, really, then I'm having a podcast. Then I have to go to the office. Then I have some meeting. And then in the evening, I could do what I want. Like my day, my life, my time, like I have infinite time. People with kids, like, you don't have time. There's no like, oh, I could do this and then maybe I could wash my hair and then I could do a face mask and then I could, you know, I could create a mood board. Like they don't have the time. They're like, I have like 2 hours. What am I going to use for those 2 hours? And also a really amazing thing that I got said in another podcast with one of our founders was like, if I'm taking time away from time I could be spending with my child, that time should be worth it. So the perception of the value of time is much greater than I think your average late 29-year-old male or female that doesn't have such commitments, that actually time is infinite. And I'm really tired of people being pregnant or having kids as like seeing as a disadvantage, when actually from a focus perspective it's a superpower from everything I've seen. So yeah,
100% agree. My sister co-founded with her best friend, both had already one child, and were both pregnant, and it was like the catalyst for all of their success, because they knew, okay, I already have a child, but they wanted it and they saw the gap in the market, and I'm so proud of them because it's like going through the roof in Germany. But I 100% agree. I always say the same, like I have so many friends and also my family who really show how it can work if you want to.
Whereas a lot of women like won't go for a promotion or won't change jobs or won't start the company because they know they're going to have kids. They do it because of it. And it's like, I'm not saying take it all on. Like, of course, like there's a time and a place, but I think we're told too much that it's going to be, you're not going to be able to function and you're going to have too much on. And but actually, no, it just, yeah, maybe they'll be working less hours, but then they'll actually be doing the things that matter. Like your hourly value is like through the roof. So for me, that means that they're not wasting their time on things that like are fluffy, you know? So yeah.
That's really interesting. That's always something that worries me, is like, I don't want to have a kid because then I can't do what I need to do and I'm going to be behind. And
no, you'll get it done.
Yeah.
You just will not do the nonsense.
And when I actually look at how much time I spend procrastinating, going on different apps, or like we always say, planning Google Calendar and color coding everything. Yeah. I mean, what a waste of time.
I sometimes even pretend or like act as I would have children. So I'm like, okay, how would my day look like, and how would I like spend my time? Because it changes everything.
Yeah,
it would completely. Yeah.
And like on a personal note, you've lived in so many different places. You've been in London, now you're in Dubai. How do you think that kind of I guess that mix of kind of cultural experience and travel and kind of that sometimes lack of stability of moving around, how do you think that's changed who you are and helped you in what you're doing now?
I think I needed routine and like safety a lot less. Like I thought the traveling and the moving wouldn't be a problem, and then I realized actually how unsafe it can make you feel. So for example, you know, you travel to Egypt, you get to the airport, like nothing makes sense. It's all very like stressful. Then you're in a taxi, do you feel safe? And then you don't have your local coffee shop, you don't have control of your food. Like same when I went to Colombia, and these are all great countries, but the level to which I think I was thrown off, you know, it's on one hand you're like, wow, like it really challenges your brain because it's so stimulating, and you know you're seeing so much and you're living through so much, but at the same time it's like very destabilizing. And it's made me really realize of like what, like, is safety and peace something that is based on your externalities, or is it something that you are the anchor, and irrespective of the externalities, you will still feel that sense of safety? And I think I actually relied a lot on externalities of comforts like you would have in Dubai, and really suffered actually for all the traveling we did with Aurora this year. Like, it was needed, but it killed me. And so I think a big goal at the moment is like I am my own sense of peace, and if other stuff destabilize, that's fine, but like how do you bring that peace on the inside? And that's also for when you go through like emotional troubles, you know, it's like, yeah, shit's gonna happen, but can you be your own sense of safety? And I actually realize it really matters to me that like where does this food come through, and have I done this, and I need a nice gym, and I have to have, you know, and actually like, so that's actually been a really big learning, which I didn't see coming, because I was like, well, I've speak many languages and I've moved around and blah blah blah, and yeah, so it's definitely been a learning for me, and I don't know like how you get there, but you can. So let's see. I think
it's also like maybe being comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Yes.
In a different perspective.
Yeah. And not being able to control everything. Yeah. That's the problem, is actually I'm very used to like controlling everything. No, like, where's my food from? Like, is it clean? Like, where's my timing? Like how am I going to exercise? Like, you know, just controlling every eventuality. And then you go to a lot of these markets and like, it's not in your control, you know?
Just chaos. Yeah.
You might get food poisoning, you might not, like but that shouldn't like necessarily break you. So yeah, I agree.
So we were talking about being comfortable with the uncomfortable. What is one thing, except like excess, what you see makes all these female founders maybe uncomfortable, and they need to fall in love with being comfortable with it?
These are going to be kind of classic things, but I gotta say, like, this is what I see. Number one is like being like selling themselves. So when we had the finalists last year, and before the final, I sat on a call with all of them, and I was like, take me through your presentation. And it was so funny how like after the presentation, like for one of them, I was like, so you're telling me that in 6 months you've gone from this to this, like with nothing? And she was like, yeah. And I'm like, why did you not say that? As in, they downplayed a lot of like their achievements and put it quite conservatively, and that's fine. I think there's definitely a really bad habit in classic venture to lie and to like throw the dream. Like, people lie constantly. Women don't. Women go off of a lot of what they believe they can do. However, it does hinder them when an investor is looking at, this is a deck by X person and this isn't a deck by that person, but if this person is adding like 300% to everything that they're doing, like, you're naturally not gonna seem appealing. So that's not to say lie to that extent, but it's like, if you do have wins, be comfortable in owning that. And it was really interesting to see the difference in their pitches, like when they spoke to me and where it kind of got to. So there's like a confidence element here, and also like yeah, just dreaming a little bit more. And the other thing is trusting other people. I think there's a reason that female founders do build a bit slower, but that doesn't mean it's worse. It actually just means there's much more solid foundation. So female founders go through a lot less boom and bust cycles, or much less like massive hiring and firing cycles, because they built slower. But okay, for example, when my guy friends or my ex-boyfriends would go like at an event or whatever, and they'd be like, so like, what are you investing in today? And yeah, so you did a deal with it, like, and fine, that's fine, talk about business. But then they would go off of what the other person said, and something would come of it, which I always looked at like, you don't know any, like, you haven't done your due diligence. Like how do you trust this person? Like, you're going off of like, are you sure he did the things that he said he did? Like, I really think you should fact check that, which I think is right. But there has to be a level of trust, because we can achieve more things together. And I think that's where guys, and I'm generalizing here, but I do think that's where men get it right. they just create opportunities, and it's whereas women, it's very, and I think we all do this, it's like, but like, would we live well together, but would we work together? I need to know more about her, like what's her there's a lack of trust, and that really can hinder the business, because you at some point need to just be like, yeah, like we'll do this, we'll try this. And so I think it's the collaboration with others, and trusting others, is where women need to kind of, not women or women, but like that I've seen needs to kind of get a little bit better.
Do you know this saying of it needs a village to raise a child? And I always think like it needs a village to raise a business, to raise something insane. And and as well, I think we overthink, because maybe women are sometimes more afraid to fail. And I feel like men don't have this anxiety of failing, but we do, and that's why we want to make everything as perfect as possible. But the faster you fail, the faster you will succeed.
Yeah, but it's even how my brother, if I compare, like my brother's definitely like more intelligent than I am, but like when we compared like how we used to do our studies, I would read everything and do everything, and I like really mattered to me that like the work, like hard work has gone into it, and he would just literally do the bare minimum, and my grades were better than his because of those little things, but like it didn't make the difference. Like he got by. Or even like when he started his job, and my brother works really, really hard, but his approach is different. Like my mum called me, and she was like, I can't believe your brother, he's like just started his job, and he like, he left at like 5 p.m. and he's like happy to talk to them. He's asking for a holiday, and and then and just all these little things where it's like me, like any job I start, the first 6 months I'm like, I'm gonna get fired, they're gonna realize I don't know what I'm doing, I'm gonna get fired. And it's this like
it's that constant imposter syndrome. I'm exactly the same, and it's just like no one is telling you that you're bad.
No,
there's like, you have no evidence, but you just have that feeling inside.
So you're trying to compensate.
And it's like that fear that it's all going to come crashing down. Yeah. And it's like, why?
But what I will say is I don't necessarily think that attention to detail and the little things are wrong. A lot of people would say, oh, you're wasting your time. But let's talk about the ventoré event. The little details that you guys put in, the gifts after the aesthetic on the day, like that made me leave being like, these guys are really good. Like, because that would say to me, if you take attention like that in an event, you would take attention like that in the due diligence that you're doing on your hotels. And that's also why we're like, a lot of female founded businesses are very good at building community under the business. That's why you have this whole thing of creator entrepreneurs, because women are building that community, because they're so honest, because there's so much detail. Whereas I don't really know as many male entrepreneurs that pay that level of detail to anything that they do. And they would argue, well, what you did is a waste of time. Like, why would you have spent that much on flowers? But no, you're just catering to a different audience. And I think that's also something, is I don't think women should, this whole like, do the 20% that delivers the 80%. Like, no, like sometimes doing the 100% is worth doing. So I do think as well, like, we do need to still lie into that femininity, because I think sometimes it does make the difference. So I think it's just a balance.
Yeah, 100% agree. We need both.
Yeah.
We need both.
Well, this is just honestly, like, I love this. I genuinely could sit here and chat all day. Like, I'm finding this so interesting. But unfortunately, we only have so long. But we always finish the episode with kind of a closing question. That is, what's one rule that you've broken, and how did it pay off for you? Something that was, against the norm.
So I think there's two things. Number one is that, like, I have it in my head that, like, every time I change jobs, I'm going to double my salary, which for now has worked. Not that, like, I started as a bazillionaire, but I'm just saying, like, when you say that to people, they're like, what are you talking about? But so far, I don't know how it has happened. And I think people think there's, like, a level of arrogance to saying that. And it's not that I, like, picked my jobs based on the money. I didn't. But that was just something I said, because I'm like, I think I'm a good hire. Like, I think I deserve to be paid as such, kind of thing.
I love that, by the way.
Yeah, me too.
I love it. And this is going to be a viral reel. I already know it.
Yeah. So yes, that's just something that happens, and I've definitely had some looks when I say that. But
Bring them on.
Yeah, literally. But the other one is actually what I did before getting Aurora. I think it took me a long time to understand, like, what do I want? Like, what do I want out of my job? And I think to come to this conclusion of being, like, truly unapologetic of I want great people to work with, a real purpose, but a good salary. Like, I didn't know what that job was. I didn't have a job in mind. I just knew that these were criterias. And when I was applying, I mean, this was over the process of like a year and a half. Like, you know, there's a lot of like B2B SaaS businesses or like super niche like hardware businesses, and I just didn't care. And I had resigned by this point, so I knew that come August of last year, like, I was going to be out of a job. And if we look at the job market now, like, you know, that's a pretty privileged / like crazy place to be. And it's not because I had loads of savings. Like, I didn't have like a massive backup. But I kept going to all these recruiters and being like, yeah, I want a job of people, purpose, profit. Like, what do you got, kind of thing. And in that time, I had actually gotten offered a job to be head of marketing for a business. And it didn't pay that much more. And I remember just being like I just don't care about this. Like, if I start this job feeling this way, like, I'm just going to burn out within 2 seconds because I already don't care, you know? And I remember my my partner at the time and my friends kind of being like, but you don't have a job lined up. Like, it's a bit strange. Like, even my mom, I think, was like, I can't believe you turned that down. And I was like, no, because what's the point? Like it matters to me that I care. And then I moved to Dubai and I still don't have a job. And literally, like, within 2 weeks of us moving, I get this message of, do you want to run this award for female entrepreneurs? I genuinely believe, like, I manifested this job. Like, I think there was like a split in the universe where, like, this job didn't exist 6 months ago or a year ago, whatever it was, and now it did. Because there's not another
100%.
job like this on the market. It doesn't exist. There is not. And so this is where, like, having that delusional confidence, like, and I say delusional because it's in a way you're like going around, yeah, no, I'm going to have a job where I have everything. And I remember a recruiter saying to me, you can't move country and move, like, up. And, like, she's like, it doesn't happen.
Oh, yes.
And that was the recruiter that ended up was part of the business that got me this job. So it's like, had I told myself, you're not going to get this, like, you're being too arrogant. But then I did. And I'm not saying that everything's perfect. Like, Flora knows this. Like, yeah, working remotely isn't perfect. And, like, I definitely have days where I'm like, you know, maybe I should just change my career. But still, I have a job where it ticks all of those boxes. And I would never have had that had I just settled. And I think lived with, like, but it was hard in the moment until I actually got the job. I was questioning every day, like, what are you doing? You know? So well done, Bella, for, like, being delusionally confident, you know, somewhat consistently, because otherwise I wouldn't be here.
100% agree.
Yeah.
I love that. That's definitely something that we can all take away, and the listeners as well. But thank you so much for being on the podcast,
No,
Bella.
thanks
honestly.
for having me. Sorry for the monologue.
No, like, this is, I feel like, even, you know, as a friend, I'm just like, wow, I know so much more about you now. This is fascinating. But also just, you know, if I was a listener, like, there's so much to unpack here.
That's what you should do. Just bring your friends on the podcast.
Yeah, just get to ask them
whole-
all the questions you
Yeah.
want to ask. No, but thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll leave all Bella's links and Aurora below so you can find out more, and ask her all your questions if you have them. But thank you so much for watching today's episode, and we'll see you very soon.